very much, Madam Chair, and I'll get my notes out here. Thank you so much for being with us. And I appreciate your allowing me to attend this hearing. I'm not a member of this subcommittee, and I really do appreciate it. I asked to be here not only because we have world-class defense laboratories in my home state of Massachusetts, like the Natick Soldiers and Sailors, Soldier Systems Research Center, and also the MIT Lincoln Lab, but also because I believe that the labs and the research that they do make up the backbone of our future military strength. I just think this is the heart of it. And last year, DoD reported that China's investing heavily in R&D, including in, and I'll read, applied physics, material science, high-performance computing, innovative electronics and software development, electro-optics, aerospace technology, automation, robotics, high-energy physics, and nanoscience, and within the quote, just to name a few. So that kind of covers it. So I'd like to start by asking Dr. Flagg, would we improve our chances of maintaining future superiority over China if we increase our R&D investments in similar advanced technologies?
Thank you, Senator. This is a question that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Long ago, I ran the Technical Intelligence Office, so I spent a lot of time focusing on international S&T, and I was overseas with the Navy as well. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this question is that it's not just a dollar question. It's also increasing and modernizing our structures and processes and approaches to how we do research. We came out of a period post-World War II where the leaders had been decimated. We rose in a vacuum, and we came to preeminence in S&T. We've been really challenged over the last 20 years in a rising era of parity. And so that same list is being supported here, and we need to stay in the race. It's like a marathon of two very well-matched competitors. But what you want to make sure is that you don't have to run so long in that evenly matched race that you get tired first. And so I believe that you have to stay in the race. We have to stay competitive and continue investments across those areas, or we will erode and tunnel under the foundation of our national security, period. And that's not just DoD funding. My PhD was funded by the National Institutes of Health Fogarty Center. Many people here can tell you that their PhDs were not funded by the Department of Defense. They were funded by our broader S&T investment in the U.S. government. But I think the second piece of this is to really think about new strategies for winning in an era of parity, what success looks like in an era of parity. And I think what this means is that we have to send some of our investment back to the first principles. We have to get people to come back from purpose-driven vision, but not telling them the specific question they will answer, but having the theorists and the experimentalists work together to go back to the beginning and say, if I'm not trying to be more or better or faster or more trustworthy or more resilient in cyber, if I go back to the first exit and I use all the information we've learned over the last 20 years and I created a fundamentally new network that would be secure, what would that look like? So while we're running the marathon, somebody needs to invent the train that takes me to the goal so that I don't have to keep running. And so I think it's both the investment in that list, but it's also a new investment in processes that let us think bigger.
I totally agree, and I think the point is well argued. Thank you very much. You know, this is sort of the 6162 investments that we have let fall behind and that are absolutely critical if we're going to have real security in the future. Let me get to a couple of other questions, because I think this is really important. I want to ask about a recent Defense Science Board report which highlighted the age and condition of our laboratory infrastructure. Yeah, I saw you grimace on this. According to the report, the average Army lab is 50 years old. The Air Force and Navy labs average 45 and 46 years, respectively. The Science Board says that, quote, most lab directors feel they are unable to maintain their facilities and infrastructure to a reasonable standard. They report witnessing leaky roofs imperiling millions of dollars worth of specialized and sensitive equipment, as you noted, Dr. Montgomery, earlier. So I just want to ask the lab directors, just kind of a yes and no. Let me start with, does that basically fit with your experience?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Peters?
It does, yes. I would say, though, that the Air Force has done a pretty good job in terms of supporting the lab in the locations that we're at. We do have probably some newer facilities. There are some that are very old, obviously.
But there are some that are very old. So let me turn on this, because I have to say, this is what I have seen firsthand. When I've been to Natick, when I've been to Lincoln Labs, we have these world-class scientists doing cutting-edge research in buildings that were constructed in the 1940s and 1950s. Can I ask each of you just to say a word about the implications of these old buildings? What it means that you're trying to do lab work in buildings that, with infrastructure that is so far rooted in the past. Whoever would like to start? Dr. Montgomery, Dr. Holland?
Yeah. I'll say something. That it's interesting experience that I had when Reggie Brothers was in OSD. He was visiting my microelectronics laboratory where we developed spintronics and nanoscience devices, the world's highest power 220 gigahertz amplifiers that are made by our scientists in our lab, world leading. We're walking down the hallway and there's a thunderstorm that occurs, and all of a sudden brown water comes gushing out of the water fountain as we're going by, because the drainage system of this ancient building had ruptured. So what do the scientists do? They patch it up and they get back to work. Mm-hmm. But when they bring somebody in they want to recruit, and they've maybe been to Google or they've been to some other facility. Which
you mean Google has better facilities than that? That problem does not happen at Google?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And so that it can be both demoralizing for the scientists in the laboratory and discouraging to the individual who is coming to interview for a job. That the science may be very attractive. The equipment to do the science is outstanding. The peers with whom they'll work will be extraordinary, but they keep looking at these dingy, dreadful surroundings that they're in. And yes, it is counterproductive for all. You can still do world-class science in that, but sooner or later, NRL's average is 60 years. I have 1.8 million square feet of space. It was almost 70. And so, yes, those are challenges, both from that point of view. You can still do the science, but it's challenging to morale and people's desire to stay.
And the ability to recruit.
Right.
It's a really powerful point. I'm out of time, so I'm gonna yield to my colleagues on this. But I take it this is a widely shared view by those who are trying to do the work.
Just quickly, if you just get beyond the idea of the embarrassment factor in recruitment and retention, just think about the inefficiency.
Yeah.
All right, you're handing over a facility to people who are your world-class people who invariably are going to be fixing something that should be helping them do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it's a powerful point, Dr. Holland, and I want to say, I appreciate all that you do under very challenging circumstances, but we need to be better partners on this, and we need to invest so that you have the kind of world-class facilities that match the world-class talent that you've got. So thank you all very much. And thank you, Madam Chair, for
Thank you for joining us.
like
no,
this.
thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Senator Heinrich.
I would have